Hi everybody, welcome back to Spurverse, my scale model universe, and to the continuation of the TOS 1350 scale enterprise build from Polar Lights. And this is the fifth segment of this build series. So if you're just joining me, welcome. But there is a lot of material prior to this that sort of sets up the build and shows you where we are today. So if you are of a mind, please go back to the beginning and check it out. But welcome. And if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And here we go. So we're at that point now where all of our seams are finished. We have our secondary hull. We have our saucer and neck together. We have our nacelles together, and now we're at a point where we want to sort of make sure all the electronics are working before we really do a super close-up and get to get to painting. And I will be painting in sub-assemblies for a few things. An example would be the bussard collector nodes, these cups that hold the bussard collectors. I've already painted in my Enterprise gray-green. For the purposes of, I want to be able to put the rings on correctly. They've been pre-painted in their correct color, and sort of gingerly install those into the nacelles once I've got the nacelles painted. And then that way they're ready for decals and final installation. But I wanted to make sure that my bussard collectors were working before I went to the trouble. Now, I'm not using the motorized version from the Polar Lights wire lighting kit. I am using the lighting kit, but I wanted to have a silent presentation, not a motorized presentation. Now, there are ways to dampen those motors, and there's plenty of videos out there of guys who are showing you how to do it. But I've chosen to use tenor controls, the digital version, the silent version. And there's a couple of interesting things about that I'm sort of excited about. And I wanted to talk to you about that. So anyway, it's on the bench and it's running. Now, I do not have my momentary switch going yet, but I wanted to show these to you. And the illusion, now these are going super fast at the moment. With the momentary switch on, we'll be able to slow these down and get even more of an effect. But I think you'll agree with me that it's working. And it's working really well. It's creating the illusion that the fan blades are actually moving. And I assure you, they are not. So to dissect this, I have my bussard collector clear part that I scuffed up, and then I sprayed a couple of very fine layers of my clear Tamiya orange on those. I clipped out the back. I don't know if you can see here, I'll show you. I trimmed the back of the pin that is supposed to go to the motor to make these swirl. I trim that back because when you turn it over and you look at it, it disappears anyway. I've got my Aztek Dummy supplied vinyl strips that went on beautifully with a little dot in the middle because that is accurate to the 11-foot model. And so that remains clear. And so what you do is you put your, now your spinning tenor controls board looks like this. It looks like that. And you feed the wires through the bussard collector cone like this, like that. Your blades go in, and they're going to be tacked in with a little bit of hot glue. And then your orange cone goes on top, and off you go. You're off to the races. And I'm really impressed with that. So that's the system. And obviously, we know it's working. It's working quite well. So I'm very happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is sort of just attach these and get my my blades my blade cone attached, but I will not attach my my bussard collector exterior casing until the very end. Now, just to let you know, I've been very careful to take a small file. I used a small file here, and I filed very carefully. I took my time. I spent about 20 minutes on this, and I just went around and I filed. Now, not so that these are super loose at all, but that I would have a good friction fit to my cone so that, when I push these on, I have to apply a little bit of pressure, but they go on beautifully. And so everything is fitting really well, and I'm super happy with that. So I now know that I'm ready to sort of do my final assembly when I'm ready to do that. So now that I know my bussard collectors, my lights are working, I can now install these, and that's what I'm going to do right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my two neck pieces. Here they are. Seams are all done. And I'm going to apply my neck pieces to the nacelles. And then I'm going to be able to feed my wires through these, and they'll be ready to connect to my secondary hull, which is here and all ready to go. Seams are all done. It's all masked. It's actually quite hefty now. My hangar bay is, you'll see here, I'll show you, you can see my hangar bay is well and truly protected by my silly putty. Now, if I have any touch-ups that I have to do, I'm expecting to have to do something. But the point is I'm going to be able to now, when I connect my my nacelles, I just completely left and went to Hawaii for 30 seconds, but I'm back now. When I actually connect my nacelles to here, I should be able to fish my wires through, and I'll be off to the races. Now, one thing I do want to caution you in this episode. Now, this may be the fifth and final, but it might not be the reveal. We'll see how we do for time. But I'm having second thoughts about that base. Now, I went on and on about that base, but there may be another base on the horizon, and I might talk to you about it in this episode. We'll see how we do. But regardless, I've got to get a momentary switch into that base, and I've got to get my yellow wires. Here's my yellow wire. This is the yellow wire from the bussards. And I've got to get that down to the base, and I've got to connect that up to the momentary switch. And then the momentary switch, the other side of that switch, is my ground. And that should allow me to adjust the speed of these motors. So, lots to do. I'm just focused right now on these nacelles because I wanted to make sure this was all working before we carried on, and we're working great, as you can see. And so the next time, the next time you see these, they're going to have their fan blade crystals attached to them, and they will be attached to these bussard collectors. And once we've done that, we can move on to the saucer, because the secondary hull is already wired up and its wires are already in there. So we're just going to start sort of plugging and playing and making sure everything works. Before we do final assembly. But we won't do final assembly until we have got a coat of paint on this, on the various sub-assemblies, and we have laid down our decals, because I don't personally think you should be putting your decals on a completed ship. You need to do it while they're in their sub-assemblies. You're going to have such an easier time getting them on. And some of the pieces you might want to paint on, so we'll see how that goes. But again, you know, it's your preference. I'm following what I believe to be the best of all those videos that are out there. And it's all coming together really well. And, you know, prep properly, follow all the advice that's out there. And this is really a fun build for all of us. So I really hope you're following along. I beg you, get this kit out of your stash and start building it. It belongs on a shelf finished, not in a box. So away we go. Let's take a look at the next segment in just a jiff here. Okay, so we're sort of getting down to the final steps of this model, and it's, you know, you feel kind of, I'm starting to get depressed that it's going to be over soon. But anyway, what fun, great fun, and not terribly complicated. Now, I will say this though, it is bulky. So in terms of the painting, I have not yet put any paint on the saucer and neck. I've done the nacelles and I've done the body, and I'll show you the body in just a second. But the reason why I wanted to start with these nacelles is because they're going to need to get decaled before they get installed on the secondary hull. Now, the reason why I'm doing it that way is because, as you know, it's a collective kind of conscience that I'm following here from all of the various different builds. And having watched quite a few, I had to sort of weigh a decision, to or not. But it makes perfect sense to me that, you know, you want to have your nacelle in front of you, you know, down here, so that when you get ready to actually put your decal on, you've got a smooth surface. You're not fighting with it. So that makes perfect sense to me. But you know, what I wanted to also make sure is we get correct alignment. And so thanks to the magic of the iPad here, you can see that this is the 11-foot before it went to its final, you know, its restoration that started in 16. But what you can see here that I think is really interesting is that it gives you some really good reference points as to exactly where the NCC 1701 should be. And the first thing I realized is that I had to start putting on some of the final pieces to the nacelle, which I'm starting to do here, because obviously, as you can see, they are your reference point to just exactly where this decal should go. And so what I'm realizing is that it sits directly in line with this rear grill piece here. So what it'll do is, let me try coming over here. Here we go. What it's going to do is it's going to start in the center here, and I'll get an exact measurement, and then it's going to run directly across, and that leaves it above the grill piece that attaches to the front of the bussard collector here. So so what I'm realizing is that that's my alignment. So that's what I'm going to follow, and that should allow me to lock these in on both sides, and that's why I'm attaching these pieces. I do, as a matter of course, have these completed. Now I'm not lighting my my chiller grills here. I've put the bare metal silver from Tamiya on my Paragraphics photo etch that has gone over my plastic, and I've glued that, and this has its final paint on it. So those are ready to go. But I won't put those in just yet. I'm going to get my decals set. And then I'll be off to the races. So I'm going to hit this now with a clear gloss, but only in the area that I'm going to need to put down decals, because obviously for silvering, and we all know about that. So that's what I'm going to do. They have been wired. The pylons are attached, but they are not glued. They're friction fit, and they're so rock solid, they're not going anywhere. So what I didn't want to do is run the risk of you know, sticking glue and having any kind of glue sort of seep out of here. And on the actual filming miniature, there is a minute gap at the top here. So that's very, very Canon. So I'm okay with that. But these now have their wires in them, as we can see. What I've got here is I've got my three wires. I've got my red and black, my hot and my ground, and my yellow, which goes directly to my momentary switch right there. And so the momentary switch lives in the base. So what I'm going to do is once I get these installed on the secondary hull, for final assembly, these will be connected to all of the hot and ground that need to go down into the base. So I'm going to sort of tidy that up into one wire for each, because as I'll show you in a minute, I don't have a lot of room to get wires down into the base. So that is where I am on the nacelles. So I am getting ready to get those decals on, and it is highly recommended you get these pieces on so that you have a perfect reference as to where these will sit on the model, because as you know, they're going to come in at an angle, and I'll do it this way for you. They're going to come in at an angle, and when they come in at an angle, they'll end up, because of the geometry of this, they'll end up straight out. So that's good. So those are ready to go. Now let me just bring in this thing of beauty. Now a lot of you are going to go, wait a minute, what happened to the other base? Well, some of you are, and some of you just don't care, which is pretty awesome as well. But what this is the wolf base. Now you can get these bases, these wolf bases. I'm going to turn it around so you can see the front of it. You can get these wolf bases at HDA Model Works. Jerry over there still works with wolf, and we'll build a custom base for you, I believe. So that's where this came from. Why did I change? Well, I felt that the black was more retro, and the square box was more retro with the TOS, and I'm going to leave the that beautiful base that's in the form of the badge for Star Trek. I'm going to leave that for my refit A, which I'm going to build either later this year or early next year, so that I've got both models completed and up on the shelf where they belong. But that's why I went back to this. But when I did that, what I realized was that this post had to connect into the model correctly. Now you can get a much larger connection post. You can go with a lamp arrange, you know, from a light shop. You can get a much wider pole and then feed anything you want down there. But I like the slim nature of this, and I wanted to keep with the kit as best as I could, and so this fits on that nicely. You can see all my guts are spewed out here, so they're ready for you know, they're ready for the PC board that will go in, that will go in here. And then everything can get nicely tucked in, and then all I have to do once I connect all my hot and grounds together is get a single wire to go down my pole here, my post, into the box. And as you can see, the box is pre-wired for you. The base is already in its stable position, and I have used a little bit of 5-minute epoxy that went off, so that's not going anywhere. It's really pretty solid. But what is supplied with you when you get the Wolf base is you get a power switch, and then you get a function switch to turn all your lights on. So you can go power up first, and then you can go to light up the whole kit and caboodle, or you can actually separate these and have certain lights come on based on what power you're using. And then, of course, my third one here, which I'll tip to camera so that you can see. My third one here is my secondary, my momentary switch, I should say. And then I've put the photo etch banner here for the planets. You know, I swear to God, if I ever make it to 70, it's going to be extraordinary. I'm 60 and all, because the mind is going. But anyway, the World Federation of Planets, interplanetary. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. That goes there, and then on the top, I've put the name of the ship and the badge. So that's going to be a thing of beauty, and it's very clean. And obviously, when it's complete, I can actually display it any way I want. I can display it this way on an angle, or I can display it straight ahead like this. I suspect I'll probably have it on an angle. So that is where we are at the moment. I'm going to press forward. I'm going to get the decals going. I'm going to start to clean up my wiring, and then I'm going to get a coat of paint on this saucer, and we'll come back and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so lots of work has been happening. I would say from the previous segment to this segment, I would say about 7 or 8 hours of work, of good work, and a couple of stories to share. Now, the interesting thing is I had a couple of issues with decals, and I'm glad I did. These sheets that come with the kit, I thought, you know, lazy me, let's just gloss up the ship and lay down some decals. Well, I'm glad I did, because the net result of that was I started on the nacelles and they disintegrated on me, both of them. They were impossible, and I have 2 sets. I had a spare set from I don't recall where, and I was able to use that, and they're all decals. Now, I mean, that just goes to show you, even if they're kept in a dry, dust-free environment in their plastic bag with wax-free paper over them to protect them, it really doesn't matter. I had warm water. I gave them enough time to release, and they just crapped out on me. And I'm really glad they did, because I went to plan B, which should have been plan A, which was to actually use Lou Delmaso's paint masks for the ship. And wow, first of all, I've had mixed results in the past when I was learning how to use these masks, so they were very intimidating to me. But read his instructions to the letter and watch a couple of his videos, and you go, wow, okay, I got it, I can do this. And if you follow the instructions, they are super easy to use. They lay down beautifully. And I've got a couple of examples to share with you here, which I want to do in just a minute. Well, let me show you. Let me show you the ones that I've laid down here. Let's see here. How am I going to do this? Oh, I know how to do this. I'm going to show you them there. There they are. And so they came out beautifully, and absolutely thrilled with them. Now, it's a two-step process on the secondary hull. It's a three-step process on the nacelles because you've got black, yellow, and red. So the process is very simple, and if you follow them, you get a beautiful result. And I'll show you the nacelles in just a second. The secondary hull, I have tested lighting. Let me show you a quick close-up here of my test from earlier today. Let me push this out just a little bit for you. So you can see I've got a light leak that I'm going to deal with, and I've got a little bit of cleaning up to do. And this was without the fantail lit. Now I lit the fantail, and that's pretty good. It's a little dark, and that's disappointing. But I'll show you that in the final reveal. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you the process for the nacelles. So here I was, glossed up and ready to go. I was ready to lay down my decal, and I had a complete disaster. So anyway, I cleaned it up, and I went to the paint masks, the Aztek Dummy paint masks, and the net result of that is this. And you can see, look how clean that is. Look how beautiful that is. Isn't that great? And wow, I'm just so happy with it. It was like, what was I thinking? So anyway, I have completed the nacelles now. They are actually set aside. And they're drying. The final matte varnish is on it. Everything is on them. They are fully detailed, and they're ready to connect to the the secondary hull. So my next step here is I'm going to continue with the paint masks because I'm having a lot of success with them, and boy, what a difference! What a difference they make. I mean, it just the quality of laying down paint on paint versus a decal that you may get silvering on. It's not even, it's not a debate to me. And yes, I'm sure you can get a perfect result with your decals. And if you do, knock yourself out. And I'm thrilled for you. I'm staying with Lou's paint masks because they work. And they're awesome. And you know, this is again, you know, part of the fun of this is like go back pre paint masks, and all you had was decals. There are a couple of other companies that offer some paint masks. I'm not going to say who they are because one of the sets separated on me, and it's just not good. So I'm not going to disclose who they are because that's not what this channel's about. But I can tell you that Lou's masks work, and I'm not just saying that because Lou is a friend. I'm saying it because that's the experience I've had, and I bought another company's product, and it didn't work. But anyway, moving on. So What I've got now is I've got hot leads and ground leads that are coming. This is all from my hangar deck and the rear of the ship. One of the things that I did do was I tried to get everything as thin as I could. Remember, to get that hangar bay into this, and even though it was a 3D printed resin piece and it was super thin, and I didn't have to grind down any plastic to get it in, I did have a bit of a struggle with the wires at the rear of it, but I did not have to glue in my my hangar deck. It press fit in and is sandwiched in. And it didn't go anywhere. But curiously, I had a bit of an issue with the fan tail, but I've repaired it, and I couldn't get it flush, so I didn't want to use putty or anything, but I did use a little bit of plastic to repair that. Let me see if I can show you that on the close-up camera. I'll pull it into position here, and hopefully you can see it. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. And so here it is. I've repaired this, and now it sits flush, and it sits flush on both sides, and so that's terrific. The actual stand itself, I should be able to connect or tie these three wires into one, and only send one wire down into the base, and that'll be good. And then I've got my yellow wire, my momentary switch wire. So there's two from the nacelles. So they have to come through into the secondary hull when I do the final install on the nacelles. And I've checked the bussards. We've seen that on the previous episode, and so that's all working. And so I will feed those wires through and out the front, get everything tied up and cleaned up. I do have my second board from the Polar Lights lighting kit installed, and everything is plugged in and tests. So the only thing I'm working on right now is the saucer, and here it is. It is under construction, as they say. That is after 5 coats of primer, believe it or not, and a lot of aggravation. But that is the first coat of final paint down, and then what I'll do is I'll come in with 1500 and then 3000, and I will put on 3 coats, and I will lightly sand 1500, 3000 on every coat, and that will give me a super glassy finish, and I'll be good to go. And then I can start to lay down my final sort of decals and everything, but I'm not using decals. I mean, masks for the registry, for the name of this beautiful craft, and of course everything to do underneath. And so I'm just going to keep going with the paint masks and do everything in paint. I mean, it's working for me, and I'm very happy with it. The other thing I'll say to you too is when you actually remove the masks and you get a little bit of paint on those masks. One of the mistakes I made is I tried to clean it off with a little bit of a hobby knife. I scratched them. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. But interestingly enough, what I learned, and I learned this from watching Lou's channel, Aztek Dummy, is that when you clear coat, all is right in the world. And oh my God, it just eliminated most of the scratching on the windows. So I was absolutely thrilled, absolutely thrilled. And so that's good to go. That's good to go. I do know that when I remove my masks from the saucer, I may have some touching up to do, but that's okay. That's all part of it. And then of course I've got to attach the saucer to this bad boy right here, and there's no way to really test fit that without these guide points in here grabbing it and causing you a whole bunch of grief, because they tend to be very, very tight. Now, I've kept them clean, so there's no paint on the neck insert, but nevertheless, I can tell you categorically that if you pressure fit these and then you try to remove them, you run the risk of actually opening up your seam, and because of the wigging and the wagging. So that is just one of the things. It doesn't matter, how well you glue this, you still run that risk because it is plastic. So you want to be careful. But the nice thing is that the neck is in the very front here. So when I feed these wires through and out the front of this bad boy right here, I'm going to be able to let me raise you up a little bit there. There we go. Let's see. How's that? We're going to be able to pull everything out here. Now I've got some tidy wires. I've did a tidying up of my wires, or tidy wiring, as my dear friend Wayne Green likes to say, and so that's all good to go. So the next step will be to complete the saucer, finish putting all the pin registry and details on this bad boy, and then bringing everything together. Attaching everything and doing a final connect to the base, and we should be good to go. And then we'll do sort of a final reveal, and then I'll sort of talk through any final points that I think we have here. But again, I want to re-emphasize the fact that this build was made possible by all the other great modelers and the community that have posted videos of their builds. I've watched an awful lot of them, and that level of comfort gave me the confidence to go, you know what, it's time to get mine out of the box and put it on the shelf with the rest of my new collection as it should be. So guys, please, again, if you've got this model, don't just tackle it. Take your time. You don't have to do it in the time that I've allotted. You can take a whole year. It doesn't matter. If you only get a half an hour of opportunity to model, take that half an hour and just do something. Whether you're prepping something, whether you're building something, whether you're painting something, it doesn't matter. You can do an awful lot in a little amount of time just with prep and patience. And so I really urge all of you to do that. So let us press on. This is one of those moments when you are building a kit where you really start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and all of a sudden it goes from a whole bunch of pieces on a bench that have been painted and tested and wired and varnished and decaled, and then the next thing you know, bam, it's a model. It's and the components of this kit are large enough that they take a little more time, but also for these mutton chop fingers, it's a lot easier to work with. But I thought it would be important just to sort of talk about this final stage before we reveal the ship in all of its glory, and to tell you what I've been doing. I'm on the bottom of the ship now, obviously. Decals are on, and I've been doing a little bit of weathering, and I'm not sure whether you can see it, but it's subtle. But it's there. These striations, they're there, and yeah, that's better. You can see them there, and these are the rust sort of streaking that are on the ship. I've got a little story to tell you about decals. In fact, I don't know if you caught this one there. I'm going to be cleaning that up and repairing it. But you know, I really I don't know what to say. But I've checked on all the videos, and you do get a lot of guys complaining about the decal sheets. You can get one that is absolutely perfect, and things are terrific. You know, you can leave them in your warm water, whether you use a little soap dish detergent or not, to release them. You know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds in your warm water. They come out, they go onto your sheet. You leave them for sometimes, you know, sometimes 10 seconds they slide off. Sometimes it's 30 or 40 seconds to a minute before they want to come. And if you start tugging on them before they're ready to really slide, you're in a whole world of hurt. But what I was noticing with these particular decals is they're disintegrating, just absolutely disintegrating. So that's been really frustrating. But I've only had one little issue right there, and I do have, fortunately, I have a second one of these, so I can remove that one and put it back. But everything else is on. I can't put the lower dish with its little laser pointer on. That's this piece. I can't put that on yet because it's a very delicate fine end, and with the tipping that I'm doing, I'm liable to snap it. I've got all my wires sort of identified that are going to go to my tenor controls board that will plug in. Everything's sort of hanging out the front here, so they've puked all these wires. I've got my main hot here. Let me get you a little closer. Yeah, I've got my main hot that is ready to feed through my my stand, and that's all that is going down into the base. Everything else is staying in the front here. All of my decals are on, or I should say, these are lovingly. Check this out. There, that's better. These are Lou Delmaso masked, painted. They'll never come off. So that's pretty good. Anyway, everything's on. So it's just a function now of doing the last bit of weathering that I'm doing. Now to do that, well, the bottom is going to get a final varnish just to set everything, but I'm letting my last decals dry. And then on the front here, on the top of the saucer, I've got my streaking to put on, and I'm going to be using two colors. I'm using a thin down, I should say, Vallejo Rust, which I'll thin down. And believe it or not, I'm also using this Emerald. And it is the two of them are a perfect match for the weathering streaks. So I'll get those nicely sort of slashed on there, and I'll use my my line technique, which I learned from Steve Dimzo. who showed you how to paint your Millennium Falcon by D'Agostini. If you've not seen his video, check it out, because he's an extraordinary talented model maker. But he taught me to use the 3M Post-it pads. You take them off and you line them up nicely with your model, and you take your airbrush and you can test it here. So if you've got splatter, you're not going to get any on your model, and then you just lightly streak them across here, and that will give you your various different lines, and that will allow me to do some weathering on this. And then the only other weathering I've got to do will be some slight rusting around the inside of this ring here. Gets a little bit of the rusting ring too. So to finish this, I'm going to be using Lou Delmaso's paint mask to put on the Enterprise, its call sign and its name. That will be painted on. But before I do that, I have a very pronounced rust ring that I have to put down, and I'm going to use Lou's paint masks to do that as well. But that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to get that that ring down before I go ahead and work on the final piece of this, which is christening it with its name. USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. So that's what I'm going to do now. And then once I've done that, everything will get a final coat of varnish. And then I will start the final assembly. And so the next time we see this bad boy, it should be up, lit, and in front of you for a final reveal. So here we go. And here she is. And I'm having this sort of euphoric moment, before I decided to start recording the final moment here. I was really thinking about how blessed we are to be able to have this awesome hobby and this incredible community, and how gracious they are and helpful they are and friendly they are. And it really was the impetus for this build. It wasn't. It was for no other reason, but I'm very nostalgic, and I loved to go back over all these great videos over the years and see so many talented modelers tackle this kit, and the joy that they had when it first came out, the excitement, and all the machinations that it went through, with the saucer having grid lines, and then, it shouldn't have grid lines, and let's remove the grid lines. And then, all of the aftermarket things that started to appear, which were just awesome. The photo etch that arrived from Paragraphics, that was amazing. The mask sets that came to help us. The great Aztek Dummy, Lou Delmaso, and his incredible tutorials in those mask sets were just so inspiring, as was his builds, along with so many others. And of course, so many other aftermarket companies as well, and lighting, from Tenor Controls, Voodoo Effects, and Fedoratron, and others, that I apologize that I'm not remembering, and all the wonderful hobby stores like Cult TV Man and Monsters in Motion, and just this incredible, and there's Andy's hobby headquarters, if anybody follows him, out in Arizona, came from my hometown of San Diego. But just incredible passion. And so it was the real foundation, the real reason for going, you know what, it's time to follow all of that incredible source material and just do this. And so that's what we've done. We have built the Polar Lights 1/350 scale Enterprise, the 50th anniversary box set I had. And so I want to talk about that briefly, and then we'll close. I'll close by dipping to black and then coming back up with the lights on and the lights out here, and so we can see it all lit up. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of putting the lights on while the lights are on? You want to really see it. But I wanted to just talk about some things first before we close. It's been really fun to build this. I do think that personally. I think you have to have some basic modeling skills under your belt before you tackle this. It's definitely worth checking out all of the videos. There were no fit problems for me, except that obviously, if you're trying to light this behemoth, the lighting kit plus the original parts from the model do make it a real challenge, because you would have to be grinding a whole bunch of plastic to fit that in there, and the size of the wires that are supplied just make it a really, really tight fit. Now, it obviously does fit, because they wouldn't have put it on the market if they didn't think you could actually get it in there. But there's a huge difference, in my opinion, between shoving something in there and ease of it. It shouldn't be that difficult. And I think that was one of the challenges with this, and proportionally, could they have made some engineering choices to help us make that a little bit of an easier fit? I don't know. And the same is true with the Refit A and all of its predecessors on the Refit series, because it's a real challenge to light these things when they're not engineered for lighting. You're cutting and gouging and breaking and doing all kinds of things. So that would be my first comment. My second comment would be that if you are going to actually tackle this, you do build it in sub-assemblies. And when you build something in sub-assemblies as large as this, and as relatively bulky as this is, as I say, you're going to run into some challenges. One of those challenges is the glues and choices that you make. Now, I would honestly follow the 5-minute epoxy theory. I think epoxy resin for putting this secondary hull together is really important. I really do. You can use the old-fashioned sort of glue, and I do use it, and Revell makes another version of that, which essentially melts the plastic and bonds it together. But when you are doing sub-assemblies with bulk like you are here, you've got some points here that I think are worth talking about. One is this neck. When you put that neck, when you're pulling it in and out of the secondary hull for test fitting and for testing and all those sorts of things, you've got a friction fit that is good, but it's tight. And so that wiggling and jamming and jiggling is going to actually affect that seam. And I had a small issue with the very front of the secondary hull. I did notice just a slight separation, and so you've really got to be careful. Now I got it fixed and everything is good, but you do have some issues with fit and test fitting and the bulk of this. So just be aware of that you're going to need really good solid glue joints on these sub-assemblies. Otherwise, you're going to run into some issues. And I also would highly recommend, when you're getting rid of the seam on the saucer itself, make an effort to tape up all of those edges really well and only get putty into the places that you want it to be. Don't allow it to go anywhere else, because you're going to have a real difficult time sanding that back and getting it perfect. The only other thing I'll say about masking a model like this, the window masks, they're fantastic. But when you're putting on 2-3 coats, even if they're light coats of primer, you're building up paint levels. And as you're building up paint levels, you do run the risk of some of these masks sort of getting part of them or all of them sort of glued to the paint, as it were. And so there's a couple of things you can do, and they'll take extra time, but I do think they're worth it. If you're going down the mask route, you do need a couple of sets of masks. It can be expensive, but if you're going to mask the model, you want to remove those masks between coats and either reapply them or apply a new set, so that you don't get that tack, that buildup of paint on the mask. Because when it comes to pulling them, you don't want to spend the rest of your life with a Sharp X-Acto 11 going around every window. You're going to risk scratching something or chewing on something, so you really don't want to do that. But once the masks are off and everything is cleaned up, your varnish coats, your matte, your gloss, and your matte and your gloss will do a lot to help get those windows a little more crystal clear and really bring them out. And so that's a good thing. Painting masks went on really, really well. You can see on the nacelles here, they really are a thing of beauty. I just love the way they sort of give you a permanence to your kit. You're not going to have to worry about any silvering or sort of decaling. They'll peel up over time and that sort of a thing. Now, if you put your decals down patiently and you are giving them a couple of coats of varnish afterwards to seal them in once they're thoroughly dry, you should be pretty good. And so that was one of the things. If you're going to use the tenor control lights system on the bussards, as we all know, the motor from the lighting kit is supposed to turn that inner fan blade plastic, that clear plastic piece. Now, Lou Delmaso's clear window and clear part and window mask set does include your permanent black vinyl strips for your bussard collectors, and that is terrific because they're crisp, they're clean, they go on beautifully. But just so as you know, the tenor control kit, if you're going to use that, what you do is you're going to take your inner clear part and you're going to snip off the rear of it. Now, I do show you that in one of the videos of this build, so it's there. And that allows you to attach it to the top of your effect, your board that has the effect, and then it allows you to put your final cover on the bussard collector. And of course, that got a couple of light coats of the Tamiya orange clear, and I scuffed it up a little bit. And the net result, and we'll see that when I turn the lights off and we see this in all of its glory, is amazing. They actually look like they're spinning. So if that's the way you want to go, and it's the way I wanted to go because I didn't want to hear the noise, it's perfect. It works really well. I did not light up my chillers on the grills because they weren't on the 11-footer. In full disclosure, I've got some weathering to do. A little bit of weathering to do around the top of AB deck. There's a little bit of weathering that I am going to do just because I want it to really look like the 11-footer. And in case you're wondering, there is a light blue. You can't see it very well. I don't know if I'm able to show it to you at all with all these camera angles. You are not going to be able to see it, so you're going to have to believe me. But you might see it a little bit. I'm not seeing it on my monitor, but you might see it on the camera. We do have the light blue line, which was on the 11-footer for the pilot episode, and then in later on it was removed because they thought, well, that was kind of funky. But you know what? What's really interesting is this green. If this green is close to the production model, it actually works with the blue. It blends. it's not horrific. It doesn't stand out and make it look ugly. And I've read that a couple of comments of guys who have said, well, it just doesn't make any sense. But, you know, color is a very, very personal thing. But to have a critical eye with it says that, okay, are these two colors harmonious? And to my eye, in this light, they are relatively harmonious. I did do some of the rusting, and I did do some of the weathering to the top of this. You can see it here. And I did that just to have some fun with it and see if I could. And I did it very subtly, and I'm very happy with it. You could just keep on going, by the way. It's so much fun to work on this. But at a certain point, you do have to say enough is enough. I have a metal version of the antenna array in the very front of the ship. I got that online. My shuttlecraft are from Shapeways, and I've showed you those on previous episodes, and there's close-ups of them at Spreeverse. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see them there. And so there's detail shots there that help really, see this thing close up. But other than that, the only other thing I do want to say, which sounds really negative, I know, but it has to do with decals. Guys, I was fortunate enough, don't ask me why or how, but it's just, how I am. I had 4 sets of decals from this ship, believe it or not, 4. And they came from various different kits over the years, either because I've been kit bashing or there's all kinds of reasons why I had them. But I can tell you, some of the older decal sets, even if your kit is kept in a cool, dark place and sealed, be very, very careful. They are a nightmare, and they will disintegrate on you in a heartbeat. Even if you follow all the instructions. So there are some times where you definitely want to seriously think about painting on some of the name and its banners and its call letters and all of that nomenclature that we use. You may want to consider it, because I think you'll be better off. Now, having said that, when you go to paint this thing, it is also a behemoth. So if you can't get it outside to paint it, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people. And I have a pretty large shop here, and it's a struggle for me to get this thing painted nicely and sanded down and painted and sanded down. When it was, not so windy, this time of year in California, we get a lot of afternoon wind. And so it's not easy to go outside and paint anything. And if the sun's too hot, you don't want to be out in the bright sun either. So it is a challenge to get this painted, but take your time, and you can certainly do it in a well-ventilated area for sure. I would say to you, seriously consider, even after you've washed your kit, seriously consider some adhesion promoters. Duplo makes one. There's several on the market. Make sure that they work with acrylic paints. I used Tamiya's exclusively on this kit. I didn't want to mix and match, but you have to let your paint dry, and you have to make sure it's sealed well and has had time to dry, because paint lift, even with tape, can be a nightmare. And I suffered a little bit of it on this kit. It's usually operator error, and I have to stop and think, okay, did I do all the steps correctly? Am I ready to go? Am I going to get any paint lift? It happens. So it is operator error, and you just have to be, conscious of that when you go to attack this kit. As far as the base goes, as you can see, I'll turn it to the front here so that you can see. I went with the box. Now this comes from Wolf Bases. You can get this from HDA Model Works. Jerry over there has a great business, and you can send him an email, and they can custom make these boxes for you. This came with the two switches, the power on and the secondary power, so you can have two sources of power. And of course I have the momentary switch in there for the speed of the bussard collectors, and I've purposely left in brass because I just think it looks cool, the paragraphics naming set and call your registry numbers. I deliberately left all that in the brass because I think it looks great against the black. The other cool thing about the black too is it feels very retro to me. So if you do want to have something that feels and looks like the bridge of the Enterprise, this is the way to go. And then you can do all kinds of fun things with it. You can put a stencil on here. You can light this up. You can do all kinds of fun things with it. I kept it like this just for time constraints, but you can go crazy with this base, and I do feel that it's more retro. So I'm going to leave my base from Ridgetech for my retrofit, which we'll probably do later this year or early next year. But I'll do the refit so that they can sit side by side, and so I chose that because I just thought it was more in keeping with that kit, and was actually designed for it, to be honest with you. So that is it for this. I hope I've covered everything. I hope you've enjoyed this build. Thank you for coming along with me. I know some of you are rolling your eyes and going, oh my God, can we just move on from a kit that's been around for 10 years? And I say no, because I know some of you have this in a box. I know it. And I know you haven't built it. And I am insisting that you do. Because if I can, anyone can. So here we go. I'm going to now just sort of dip to black, get the lights out. Let's power this thing up and see what it looks like in all of its glory. So we'll be back in just a sec here. So there it is, the 1350 scale Enterprise from Polar Lights. This is the 50th anniversary version, but there's several out there. Thanks for following along. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, guys, I wish all of you well. Be safe. Come on, build something. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.